Have you ever needed to blow dry your hair and your generator don't start in your RV? In this video, we're going to replace the fuel pump and fuel filter and do some troubleshooting on an Onan 4000 generator. Check it out. I'll be making chapters in this video, so you could just skip to the part where we're troubleshooting if you need to do that first. And I'm just going to get right into putting the pump and filter in because I know that's my problem. The reason why I know my pump is not working, when you press primer, you don't hear a pump back there pumping. Now hold it into the catch can or whatever you want to call it, and then hit prime. Still nothing. So no fuel. There's the fuel pump, and you can see I've already tapped on it, and that didn't get the kick off, so yeah, it's definitely got to be changed. Another thing you can do is you could pull your air cleaner. Ooh, and don't lose the nut in there like I just did. Spray some carburetor cleaner down the throat of the carburetor. Just a couple little squirts. Don't use brake clean, use carburetor cleaner. Brake clean is not good for your cylinder. And then hit start. And if it fires off like that, you know it's going to run. So you got spark, so you don't really have to pull your spark plug. Tight even for the air cleaner. Since you're in here, you might as well replace the air cleaner. I'm hoping I can find that nut. It's in there. I just gotta find it. Don't touch that with this. Don't you hate when that happens? Do any work in there because that solenoid's in there. We don't want to spark or arc anything. And then the control panel's there too, or the control board. And you know them motherboards, if they get a little spark, it can fry something in it. I didn't realize there was so much dog hair. Oof. It's gotta be cleaned. Been a while since I've taken this off. I might need a screwdriver. Oh, it's coming. Ew, that's a lot of dirt and dog hair. Let's switch the main switch or disconnect switch to the off position. So this is the main ground. We'll just take this off and put this nut over here so I don't lose that. And see how this one's kind of going up underneath towards the chassis? That's your main ground. This other ground is just a loop that connects to both grounds on the batteries. So this should be pushed out of the way so it doesn't touch the ground. Double check that you don't have power going to this solenoid. That's showing 0.2, so that means it's not connected and the power's off. So now I can mess around with that solenoid and not spark anything over here. Just push up on this and it pops off. Looks like somebody's been in here doing some electrical repair. Alright, we're going to go for this nut right here. There's a nut behind it. I don't have a wrench that will fit into that spot. Be careful when you undo this not to spin the whole shaft, because that back nut is securing it inside the solenoid and you'll ruin the solenoid. So we'll try to turn it without ripping that or breaking that back nut. Okay, it came off good. So when you go to tighten it, just make sure you don't over tighten this and turn the whole shaft inside the solenoid, because you'll ruin the solenoid. And don't drop any more nuts. I still haven't found that wing nut. This wire is going to go back on it. If your memory's bad, take a picture. These two wires up here I disconnected. Just mark one of them so you put it back in the same spot. Those are the remote wires that are going to trigger this solenoid. This must go to the pump. And then you'll need a T30. There's only one, and then you tip it up. It's a hook, so push it back, wiggle it and push it back. Come on off. Okay. We can move this out of the way. I'm just going to take this off because it's in my way, but you can move it out of the way if you want. Again, just hopefully the shaft doesn't move. I hate messing with these because sometimes the shaft moves, and that's not good. They're pretty inexpensive. I mean, it's basically just a regular solenoid. The Fords used to have them on the fenders back in the day. Surprisingly, this one has a lock washer on it. I ain't playing around on that one. Alright, so the red side is going to go towards the outside of the front of the generator. These wires are pretty much staying where they need to be. It's got split loom on it, so I'm going to probably shove it back in there when I go to put it back together. This doesn't touch anything. Now let's try to get this control board out. Again, T30. Finagling this thing out is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. There's a hook in the back. I'll show you once I get it out. And then there's wires that plug in from the bottom. Oh boy. I think that's as good as that's going to get for clearance. These wires go up underneath, so they stay. Okay, once you get this above this lip, then you can pull it forward. Move this harness out of the way. Remember, there's wires that are connected underneath. Ooh, still tight fit. Okay, see all the wires up underneath? You don't want to mess with that too much. Alright, I'll pull this over here. Boy, there's wires everywhere. Look at it. I got 2 wing nuts. Somebody else must have did the same thing and couldn't find it. You can't see because my hands are in the way, but I'm unplugging the fuel pump. Back in this corner is where all the grounds are at. The bolt head is on this side, and then on the other side of the casing underneath is where the ground from the battery comes in. Ignore the red, that's actually the ground. That must be some sort of protectant. Once you get that bolt out, you'll have this earth ground here and all these wires that are connected to that bolt. Out of those wires, you'll get this black wire for your fuel pump. Just tuck everything else back in the corner. Now let's remove the gas line underneath the generator. Holy, that must have been the toughest gas line I ever taken off. Okay. That's your gas filter inlet. Just for the heck of it, I got this ATV battery. I already hooked up the ground, and I put it in a plastic thing so in case it squirts gas out. But Yeah, it's deader than a doornail. Put the positive on there, I got nothing. I mean, I tapped on it when it was in there, that's how I messed up the sticker. But yeah, sometimes pumps will get going if you can tap on them, but I don't know if this is that type of pump or not. This is the low pressure one, and that number is the high pressure one. So if you put that in there, and the one you took out said low pressure, that's between 30 and 60 psi, and then this is 5 psi. And that's the information on that. This has been causing me all kinds of problems. 5 psi max, I think 2.5 psi minimum. This tip goes through that grommet way in the back. I'd show you that, but I can't get the camera back there. And that goes in the slot. There's your pigtail, that's lined up. I'm gonna put some NACs on these screws just in case it's gonna be a while since I get in there. You don't have to go crazy tight, it just needs to hold it. Take that plug off. We got to put a new fuel line clamp because that other one was a crimp on and I had to cut it off. So put it where you can get to it. Alright, that's in there. Slide this back towards the pump. That way I have my connections out here. And I'll get the round hooked up. I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand the housing. Might as well take this off and sand that a little bit. Okay. There's a double nut on the ground. The first one connects these wires to the housing with the bolt that I'm tightening up here. I have a wrench on the bottom side. You want this fairly tight. Okay. Then there's another lug like this, but for the ground, which I sanded and cleaned off, that goes on that bolt, which is now looks like a stud or threaded stud coming out of the bottom of the casing. So I'm going to connect that right now. And just plug that in, and then this tab is going to go down into that slot right there. And you know this is going to be fun because it was so tight. Make sure this is coming out on this side, I guess, because that's where it's going to connect with the solenoid here. I don't know what happened there. Somebody must have smashed this down. Actually got to inspect that real quick. Okay, yep, that one's fine. It just smashed the loom on, I think, a stud or something. Okay, we're good. So let's see if I can put this in. Okay, now we got to hook up this solenoid. That tab right there, this will hook over that tab. Which was a snug fit when I took it off. There we go. That one's a little tough. There we go. That's on. Now we got to push this and the plug for this back through this grommet. It's a double grommet, one for the frame and one for the casing. So be careful not to push those grommets out. Let me get this on the other side of this bracket. Wow, that's really tight. Alright, pull this through first. Okay, do that one first. There it is. It's getting stuck on the housing. I just need enough of it. There we go. Bring this back over. We know this one was on here first. Guess what I forgot? Forgot to put this one back on. Huh. Now, I can do that from here. I can feel it, but I can't show it to you guys. And that one had the lock nut, or lock washer on it. You snug them up, but not too much. Remember, them posts, you don't want them posts spinning inside that solenoid because it'll be no good. Oh, it's still loose. Alright, it's tight enough to where it's moving the whole solenoid, so I think that's about as tight as that's going to get. Now we'll put this side on. Okay. That one's on. That one's on. We'll plug these back in back here. Longer one goes to the back. Alright. We're good to go there. I'm going to spray my terminals here. Whoops, wrong one. Let's catch it on fire. Probably should have done the other ones. Can't reach the one in the back. Alright, and then we'll just plug this back into here. Right side up. That's locked in. This is kind of flopping around here. Don't really like that. I'll probably zip tie it. Zip tie it like that. Looks like we're good to go. Alright, we're back inside where the step is. We're going to put the ground back on. Don't drop the wing nut. I'll be looking for that one. That's nice and snug. Put the step cover back on, and I'm going to start the generator. Alright. Took me a minute to put that new air cleaner back in there. Oh, this way. Dirt's on top. There we go. Don't drop the wing nut. Quick look around, everything looks good. These generators are designed to run with the cover on. That's why I got these brushes and stuff. So you don't want to run it for a long period of time without the cover on it. But I'm going to run it just so you know and you can see that it fixed the problem. Let's see if we can hear the pump first, because that's the first sign. See? That makes a big difference, huh? But you know what? I didn't disconnect the hose clamp. Okay, now that the clamp is not pinched to the hose, let's try that again. Yeah, you can actually hear the gas coming through. All right, let's see if we can start it. No primer again. Oh, it sounds way better. More primer. I might have flooded it. Well, I let it sit. Had lunch. Let's see if it'll fire. Okay, that's a good sign. Now we just got to get it to stay running. We're doing something, because at least now it runs for a little bit. Still blinking, saying service required. Oh, it's running a little longer. Alright, so 3 blinks, and that means there's service required. Now hit stop. So it was 3 blinks, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, hit stop again to make it stop doing that. I'm gonna look up the code 36 or 36 and figure that out and come back to you. So I looked it up on my phone, and it says that code 36 means that it shut down without being told to, and the next common thing was low fuel. I know I'm getting fuel now because the pump was just changed and gas is coming out of the hose that goes to the carburetor. So I'm thinking because it sat so long, it's probably the carburetor. So I'm gonna run some seafoam through it and let it sit, and hopefully that breaks down whatever's plugging it up, and it'll fire up and run. Using another piece of hose, I'm going to drain out the float bowl and get that ethanol out of there so I can get the seafoam to fill up the bowl. We'll prime it now that I'm plugged into that gallon gas tank. We'll prime it and it'll come down this hose, and hopefully it'll come out the other end here. Now I know gas is going into the float bowl because it's coming out of the hose in this canister here. Anyway, there's the canister. Let me see if I can get it to come out while we're pumping here. Alright, see? The gas that was in there was pretty yellow. Huh. So now I got seafoam in there. There's seafoam and gas. I'm going to close this screw. So no gas should be coming out of there now. Take this hose off, the primer. Okay, we'll start it and run it as much as we can to get that seafoam in that carburetor, and then we're just going to let it sit. Anyways, I got gas with seafoam inside the carburetor. I'm going to leave it like that for a while and come back to it and see if it'll start. That's your fuel cutoff switch, and this is the pigtail or wiring harness that comes right off of it. There's a connection back there, and the ground is right here. There's an arrow on this valve, so make sure it's pointed towards the carburetor. Don't lose that aluminum washer. It's there in the middle around that brass piece. Here I'm just making sure I have power when the pump's on. I've never used seafoam to clean parts before. It seems to work okay. I'm using 320 grit sandpaper to resurface these washers so I can reuse them. From what I understand, you can use this grease to put the washer in the center of the float bowl and it'll stay there. And then when you put the float bowl all the way up, you want to keep it pressed up as you're inserting the shutoff valve. And that'll keep that washer from moving around. I adjusted the altitude screw to try and help. I'm gonna clean this up and check the gap. All right, that looks better. I blew it off with the compressor, so it's at least dry now. And it's supposed to be 25 thousandths. Yeah, it's just about there. I'm gonna leave that alone. Might as well check the spark since we're this far. I'll just grab ground off of one of these bolts or exhaust bolts. I'll clamp it on here so you can see it. The spark plug wire is pretty short. Probably not a good idea to hold it. Maybe I could just leave it down there in the dark to make it easier to see the spark. And actually, that's actually helping because it's clearing out the cylinder at the same time. We're nice and clean and dry, so it's not fouled out anymore. And I already checked the gap, so let me put it back in. And cross your fingers, hopefully it'll run. All right, not too tight, just tight enough. Put the boot back on. All right, that's completely seated. All right, let's try it again. Because this carburetor doesn't seem to have a mixture adjustment screw, the only way you're going to be able to adjust it is with the altitude screw. So I'm going to turn that all the way to the right, which is higher altitude, so it should run leaner, so it won't flood the spark plug. And then I'll adjust that back depending on how it runs and if we get that far. All right, that's all the way to the right. Well, let's go for it. Good times, good times. I'll keep playing with it. You can't hear it because the engine's loud, but the fuel pump is pumping at the same time, and it's flooding the engine again, because I still haven't realized that that high pressure pump is too strong for the carburetor. All right, it did start. I don't know if you can see here. Gonna hold this butterfly open. I don't know why that thing's flopping around, but I'm gonna hold it open. Get some air in there. Well, now I'll play with this stuff. Almost. Well, it's running longer the more we play with it. Okay, it's still surging. So this is kind of like the mixture screw anyway. So I'm gonna take it out, scribe it here, make a line so I know which way to put it back on, and then I'll just walk it off. So that line correlates with this arrow. All right, this screw does come out. I did one turn already. If you look to the left, I still got that high pressure fuel pump in there. So 6 screws before it comes out. And I got gas just spewing out of there. Let's shut the gas off. I have to get something to catch that gas. Okay, I got a clean catch can so we can see what comes out of this thing. I got the gas shut off, so it's just going to drain what's in the bowl into here. It's got a little gunk on the tip. All right, I'm going to spray in there. Watch your eyes. Yeah, I think just the tip is just dirty. Let me clean that off. All right. Nice and clean. I'll put it back in. All right, I turned it counterclockwise till I heard it click, meaning it dropped into the threads. And now I'm on the 3rd turn. Because I still haven't changed that high pressure fuel pump, it's forcing me to learn a lot more about this carburetor and this generator. That fuel mixture screw is going to help me adjust it at the end anyway. I think that's on. Now let's try it. Turn this on. Prime it. Alright. Let's try it. Huh.
I didn't realize it at the time, but all I was doing here was controlling the fuel mixture, or fuel to air mixture, with that butterfly up top to make up for all the extra gas I was dumping into the engine.
Huh. Damn it. Just keep on playing with it. It's the last chance. If it doesn't run now, I'm just going to replace the carburetor. I've pretty much done everything I could think of. I don't know why I wasted my time. A new carburetor is only 35 bucks.
Here you can see the bolt heads that are holding this cover on, and that's holding the carburetor to the intake tube.
Huh. That's in there. Huh. Well, that's on there. There we go. All right, that one's off. Save this spacer. It goes right here. Since I'm in here, I'm gonna move this wire. It's tucked way back over here. So I'm gonna bring it out front so I ain't gotta reach back there anymore. You gotta cut that zip tie. And I got some more split loom, so I'll cover it up. All right, they had a zip tie at the top here. Here's that wire. I'm gonna pull that forward. Probably put it underneath the carburetor here. That looks good like that. And then I'll put split loom on here.
It's an original carburetor on the left and the Amazon carburetor on the right. Can't believe they can make this for 35 bucks, but it looks almost exactly the same.
All right, see how this flapper, it stays open? That's why they got the spacer. So that's your space, so that'll clear, because when one's open, the other one's closed. So when I open this one, then that one's gonna close, but it'll still interfere. So well, let's start with the spring first. All right, spring. Then we'll put this in there. I guess I can get this one in there too at the same time. Put that one. Come on, baby. Might have made a mistake. See if I can get this in there. Okay, that can still go in there. Good, good, good. All right, now that we got the linkages on, this piece right here, you can see how loose it is. It's got a foam gasket on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in there like so, and then put the cover on for the air cleaner without the air cleaner. And that actually connects to this piece. And we'll put the wing nut on there. As I tighten it, it should get tight and give us some more room. All right, see it sucking in? So as tight as you want to put it, that's how much extra room you're going to have between that space. So the carburetor and the spacer and the gaskets and everything will fit in there. And then once you get all that in there, then we'll undo it, put the two 10mm bolts in, and then we should be done. I think that's about as tight as I can get it. All right, so this goes here. It's going to be a little hard to get this in there. Let's see how this is all going to go down. So I'll sandwich all these gaskets together first. I'll put this here first. All right, we'll put that there. There we go. All right, that's in there. And then this part goes to the bottom. See how that goes? Goes to the bottom. This is going to be interesting. Oops. Did I just lose that gasket? Anyways, it's going to take a little trial and error, but this will give you the space to get in there. Now it's just a matter of lining everything up. I'm going to probably loosen that wing nut so this plate will come out once I get the gaskets where I need them. All right, I took the wing nut off the air cleaner. So now everything's kind of snug. I can press on that metal plate to get me some room while I move things around. All right, I'm going to tighten this wing nut. It'll put pressure down the center and pull this plate back to give me more room. And then I'm going to take these two nails and stick them on the back side where the bolts come through, where the bolt threads are, and use that to line the gasket and the spacer on this end right here. And then that end, all I have to do is take that cover off and run that 10mm bolt and realign the gasket here. I'll try to do that in that order. We'll see what happens. All right, I think I got enough space. That gasket stays there. All right, now the nail's got the spacer and the 2 gaskets. I'm holding that on this end, and I think I lost that other gasket. Hold on, let me find it. I think it fell down in there. All right, I found the gasket. It fell way down in there. That took me a minute. Now we're gonna align this end. Get the hole close. See if I can stick this in there. Might even use another nail to hang that off of. Don't fall down again. Okay. So these nails, I got that gasket and this gasket. Everything is lined up. Now I just need to move everything in position for the back hole. Hopefully I can get it close. So now I'm putting pressure towards the intake, not the air cleaner. I'm going to kind of hold everything there. And as I loosen this wing nut for the air cleaner, it should get closer to the carburetor. And then I'll get this gasket kind of right where I need it to be too. I guess I'll hold my finger under there. That nail's in there to hold that where that needs to be. These nails are here. Move these back. I can't think of how else you could do this. I just need 3 hands. All right. Now I'll loosen the wing nut. And hopefully that pressure, there it is. I think the pressure will hold it where I need it. And try to get that back hole bolt in first. I'll gain access like that. I stuffed a bunch of stuff inside the socket so that the bolt head would only go in. And now, using our mirror, try to fish it in that back hole. This is pretty challenging, so be patient with yourself. Alright, we're that far. Kind of pushes the nail out and they go through. These bolts go about 70 inch-pounds. That's one. Two. Always this tight. What is going on? Now that I moved that wire out of the harness, I got enough to where I could just put this on by hand instead of using a tool every time. Boy, that's a loose fit. It's always something. Let's see here. All right. And that's tight. Hook this ground over here. All right, it's in. Turn the gas on again. Moment of truth. Off camera, I replaced that high pressure fuel pump for the low pressure fuel pump. The engine ran smooth with that new carburetor for like a minute, and then it started getting too much fuel again and started surging. And then I realized then when I took the air cleaner out and I looked down the throat of the carburetor, I saw extra fuel getting in there, and that's when I realized that pump was pushing too much gas. Overall, I did learn a lot, and I know what to do now in case that problem ever happens again. And that last clip was me showing you how many hertz and how many volts were coming out. That's where you adjust that governor screw to kind of dial that in after you replace the carburetor. And I ended up using it this summer and had no problems with it, so I think I got it squared away. First thing you need to do is make sure you have at least a quarter tank or above. The generator won't work if you have less than a quarter tank. It doesn't want to run you out of fuel and then leave you stranded. Next, check and see if your 30 amp fuse breaker that's right near the switch on the generator to start it, make sure that's in the forward position. Now you need to check the oil level and make sure it's not too high or too low, because there's sensors that let it know if the oil's too low or too high, and it won't start then either. Make sure you're on the level ground, and if it's a hot day, you know, sometimes that makes the oil expand and it'll go higher, and if it's a cold day, it'll obviously go lower. So you kind of want it right in the middle of the dipstick. I've had it to where on a really hot day, it started running, but then it would stall out because the oil expanded and it was over full. So I had to take some oil out to keep it running. Sometimes your fuel cutoff valve, it's an electric valve that's on the bottom of your carburetor. That won't work either, and the plunger's stuck up there to keep the fuel from going into the carburetor. Another thing you could check is the governor adjustment screw. That screw will increase the RPM and lower the RPM. Depending on if you have a multimeter or not, you could check and see if you got 60 hertz. Most electrical devices run on 60 hertz. That'll also stall it out if it does run and stall out. Like most carburetors, they get gummed up from sitting and the fuel evaporating and then it getting gunked up in the carburetor. As part of your winterizing, you should probably run some seafoam through it, and you can run that right off your filter. You could bypass that, take that one off, and put the other hose on. It's coming straight out of your gallon can. Then you have like 50-50 mix of seafoam, and run that through your generator at the end of the season so that you won't have that problem of it gunking up or messing up your carburetor. I'll have links to all the tools and parts that I used in the description for your convenience, and I'll be adding this video to my RV playlist. Please share your stories and your fixes for your generator problems in the comments below. Thanks for checking out the video today, and as always, keep it on the sunny side.